I am going to go through the whole process of making a ceramic travel mug from start to finish. There are multiple different methods to make pottery. First one, quite an obvious one, is throwing it on the wheel. There's a few under the hand building categories, so this is where you don't need a wheel to be able to make it. First one being pinch pot method, and the second one I'm going to be using is the slab method. There's also a coil method, but I'm not going to be using that for this because it's a bit overkill. It's a lot slower of a process and it's used more for sculptures or bigger vase making. It's just not necessary for a travel mug. So I'm going to be showing 3 different ways of making a travel mug. As you can see from my crusty clay hands, I have already started, but yeah, I'm really excited to show you.
When we wake,
before you start any piece, you always need to wedge your clay. This is essentially kneading the clay to get rid of any air bubbles and have an even plasticity throughout. I use about 500 grams for a mug of this size. I personally prefer to start with a cone shape rather than a ball shape. Pinch pot method is basically sticking your thumb in the middle of a piece of clay and pinching around to create the walls. Make sure you don't stick your thumb all the way through because you still need a base of your mug. So yeah, stick your thumb in before it goes all the way through. Make sure that that base at the bottom is still thick enough, and just keep pinching around, making sure you keep an even thickness throughout the walls. When you pinch, start at the base of your piece and slowly and gradually make your way up. I like to place my piece on a piece of paper when it gets a bit too flimsy to hold, which makes it easier to let it move around freely while you're pinching the walls. As you can see, the top of the walls will be uneven, and just use a needle tool or something like a knife to trim the top off so that it's level throughout. Now, as you can see, the top is quite uneven, so I just gently press in the corners of the top to soften it out and make it a little bit thinner. It is still very wet at this stage, so leave it to dry slightly so that we can finish it off and attach the lid.
Because I live in Zimbabwe, it is very hot and dry here, so I'll keep coming back to check every 5 minutes to see if it has dried enough to carry on.
Now that it has dried slightly, it is not so floppy anymore, and we can smooth the surface without worrying about distorting its shape. To do this, you can either dip your finger in some water and run that along the surface, or you can use a damp sponge. Now for the lid, gently place your piece upside down onto another piece of slab. This slab I rolled out at the same time that I made the mug, so they should be at very similar dryness, which is ideal for attaching 2 pieces together. Trace where you'd like the lid, cut it out, and attach it using the score and slip method. The score and slip method is vital to attach 2 pieces very securely to each other. You're essentially taking 2 separate pieces of clay and you need to mold it together to make one seamless piece of clay. It's important that it's attached properly so that it doesn't fall off or crack by the seams. To do this, you need to score the surface of both sides where they'll attach together and place some slip on that surface. Slip is basically water and clay sludge. It helps stick those 2 pieces together. Blend those 2 pieces together seamlessly. If you don't have a modeling tool like I'm using here, you can use your fingers or even something like an ice cream stick. As you can see, the lid doesn't have much support, so let it dry upside down so that the lid can dry flat. This is the piece now fully dry. I left it for about a week and it's time to paint. When painting, you can't use normal paint. You need to use something called underglaze, which is a specific type of paint for ceramics. When your piece gets fired, it goes up to such high temperatures that anything else will just burn away in the kiln. So you need to use underglaze, which can withstand those high temperatures. When you use underglaze, make sure to paint about 2 to 3 layers to get a solid color. If you're wanting a more watercolor effect, you can mix some water in it to thin it out. Once that's done, you can get it fired with a transparent glaze over. The slab method is essentially cutting out different shapes from slabs and assembling them together to create your piece. As always, start with wedging your clay and roll out some slabs that will fit your pieces in. Make sure to roll them out slowly and keep flipping them over to have an even thickness throughout. You can also use guides, as you can see I'm using here, to help you keep the same thickness. Make sure to compress your slab using a metal rib. This strengthens the slab and also just neatens the surface. This is a vital step that a lot of people actually skip. Cut out a rectangle. This will be for your walls. I just start with cutting out straight lines. And once I've calculated the size that I would like, which you can see the calculations here, cut out the wall length and make 45-degree angles on each side opposite ends, if that makes sense. So that's where they are going to connect together. Do the same for the base, make a perfect circle. So I'm going to let these dry very slightly, just so that it's easier to assemble. Currently the clay is still very wet, so if I were to prop the wall up against here, it will collapse in on itself. I'm going to leave it to dry slightly, where I am still able to handle it and fold it and mold it, but it's just not so floppy. It'll be able to hold its weight a little bit and just have a little bit more strength. So I can't give you an exact time on when your piece will be ready to assemble, but I suggest going back to check maybe every 5 minutes. In the beginning, check a lot quicker than you would think, just to make sure you don't over dry it, and so that you can gauge how long it kind of takes in your area. The more pieces you make, the more understanding you'll get on how much time to leave it for, how often to check, but I suggest checking back often so that you don't miss out on it being too dry. The way you check to see if your piece is dry enough is just lift up a corner. Over here you can see it's still very floppy and wet. If I push even a little bit, it will mold very quickly. I'll come back and show you when it is ready, but you essentially want this piece to feel sturdy and not so floppy. You can see it just flops on my finger like that, so that's not ready. So as you can see, when I lift this now, it kind of keeps its shape while it still manages to be bendable. So if I put my one finger here, it doesn't flop around it, it is a little bit more sturdy, and I can also physically feel that it's not as tacky or sticky. Again, use the score and slip method to attach your pieces together. If you don't have a scoring tool like this, you can also use a needle tool or something like a fork. In this instance, you are scoring each side of the rectangle as well as the bottom and the top edges of the base. To join all the pieces together, for the internal corner, roll out a small coil, place it along that inside edge and blend it to the walls and the floor. And then for the outside, use a modeling tool, or again, if you don't have one of those, you can use your fingers or an ice cream stick to blend the seams seamlessly together. And flip your piece upside down, trace where you would like the lid, cut that out. And use the same method, score and slip, to attach these together. Use your finger or something like a modeling tool to blend it together so it looks like it's all one piece. I didn't show it here, but dry it upside down so that the lid has that support and it dries flat. This is the piece now fully dry. I left it for about a week. You can use a pencil to trace out your designs because the pencil mark will just burn away in the kiln. Again, when painting on ceramics, you need to use a specific paint called underglaze. You should be able to find this at any pottery supply store, either in your local area or online. Again, make sure to paint 2 to 3 layers to get a solid color. And once it's done, get it fired with a transparent glaze. As always, wet your clay before making your piece. Whenever you make anything on the wheel, you need to center your clay first until it's smooth and your fingers aren't moving at all. Open your piece evenly, compress the bottom, and gently pull up the walls. I have sped up the footage here just so that you can see the full process and so that it won't be too slow to watch. If you find your walls are flaying out a bit, just collar it in again by putting your hands on the outside with gentle pressure inward. I like to use a sturdy rib tool like this one. This one is from Mud Tools to help shape the walls.
I'm going to roll out a quick slab for the lid so that it's ready to attach when it's dry enough to attach. Right now it's still way too wet.
As you can see here, it is a lot sturdier than what it was. Essentially, you want it still wet enough that you can alter the surface and attach another piece to it, but you need it slightly dry so that it can hold the weight of attaching another piece to it. You want the lid to be the same thickness as the walls of your mug, so if you find that the slab was a little bit too thick, just roll it out until it's the same thickness as the walls. Again, flip your piece upside down onto a slab and trace out where you want the lid to be. Because I want to attach this lid on the inside of this mug, I just measured the walls with the needle tool and offset it along where I traced the cup. I cut this out and attach it using the same method as always, score and slip. I push back the serious feeling, the ends unknown, to get back. So trace out where it will attach together, score the two sections, add some slip, and apply gentle pressure to attach the two pieces together. I should be the last to know Again, use a modeling tool. If you don't have this, you can use your finger or something like a ice cream stick, and gently flip it upside down to dry out the base very slightly, just so that we can trim it away. Now, the whole reason why I attached the lid to the inside is so that when I place it on the wheel to trim, it's still a flush surface underneath. Trim your piece however you desire and let it dry. This is about a week later. It is now fully dry. How you know that your piece is bone dry is that it mustn't be cold to the touch. If it is still cold to the touch, it means that there is still a little bit of moisture in the clay. I use a pencil to mark out my design because the pencil marks will just burn away in the kiln. And again, remember to use underglaze as paint, as any other type of paint will just burn away in the kiln. If you do make a mistake while painting underglaze on ceramics, you can use a wet sponge to wipe it away, or gently scrape away the paint that's on the surface. Underglaze dries on top of the clay, and so it's easily scraped away if need be. Once that's done, you can get it fired with a transparent glaze.
The engine glows, and I guess you always seem to know. Hello, Mona. I push back the serious feeling.
If you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to leave them in the comments and I'll make sure to get back to you. Please like and subscribe. It helps a lot more than you think, and it's free. If you would like to follow along on my socials, my ceramic Instagram is klay.ceramics.ws. WS stands for Wendy Stone, and my social Instagram is wens.stone. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
I stand alone. Show me where the ending goes. Honestly don't. I should be the last to know. We're all in this. I stand alone. Show me